Welcome to another Long Island Authors Meet the Author interview. Today we have author Thomasina Tissue. How are you, Thomasina?
I am doing well, Kay. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. Please introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little bit about yourself and let them get to know you.
Well, my name is Thomasina Tissue, and I write middle grade fiction. That's for kids about 7 to 14 years old. And my connection to Long Island is that I grew up there, but I moved away when I was older, as people do. So I like to say that I left the island, but the island never left me. So here I am all these years later, kind of spinning yarns about what's in my heart for Long Island. So
When you're writing your books, are you focused on a young reader or a younger self?
I would have to say neither. I just sort of let the story kind of come out of me. And when I started writing novels, that's exactly what I did. And when I finished, like the first one, or maybe halfway through, it dawned on me, oh, these are middle grade books. So I didn't really consider the audience, only the story. So I feel like a good story is a good story. I'm not really sure that when Queen wrote "We Will Rock You," that they thought 5-year-olds would be pounding their fists and feet along to the song, but it just worked out that way. So, good music is good music and a good story is a good story. So I definitely didn't really consider the audience.
Do you have a favorite character from your books?
It's hard to pick. In The Water's Edge, I love Jack. He is sort of like the Yoda character. He's like old and wise and mysterious. And he keeps the reader wondering. But I also love Stephen, who's sort of the main character's sidekick. And he's just grounded and good and unapologetically tells it like it is. And I feel like we all need friends like that at different times. And then in Boy Patriot, I would have to say Miss S is probably my favorite character. She's sort of sassy and grouchy and just kind of fun. Yeah, so those are my favorites.
Are there themes you return to again and again, even unintentionally?
Yes, actually, the theme of death I frequent. And I know that sounds like so serious, so I'll explain. So unfortunately for me, when I was a younger person, there were a lot of deaths in my family. And as tragic as all of that was at the time, I came out of it all okay and like healed and whole and all of that. But it definitely had a profound effect on my life. And I don't think that I would be who I am today without having had those things happen. So I believe that death has made its imprint, in my writing. Like, for example, in The Water's Edge, the main character's little brother escapes death in a near drowning. And in Boy Patriot, Major, the main character's pop, her grandpa, died. And she's kind of dealing with that. And then the Boy Patriot is the ghost in the book, the benevolent boy ghost. And he, of course, has died. He's a ghost. And he's dealing with trying to get back to his family. And so there's that going on. So I have somehow blended that into my books in sort of a beautiful way. And so, yeah, I would say death.
What part of the writing process still surprises you, even as you write your next book?
So I was texting a writer friend the other day. She's a good friend of mine, a critique partner. And we've gotten to know each other well over the years. And I texted her and I said, hey, you know, when the story begins to like write itself and you're just like this vessel that's doing the writing. And I was like, yeah, that's the wave that I just hit. Right. And I'm just like loving it. And so that definitely still surprises me. Or when I hit that wave and like a surprise character just shows up and you're like, oh, like who's this person? And they just come in and make the story even better. So I would say those two things.
Do you have a favorite author that you think influences how you write?
Oh, gosh. So I would say that all authors that I read influence my writing. Truly. My husband always asks me, why do you reread books? Like you read this and then you reread it. Like, why do you do that? And I always find myself reading like a writer. Like the first time I read, I try to enjoy it, but then like the second time I read or the third time I read something, it's like my brain just goes into that like analyzing mode. And I'm always watching what other authors do, mainly because I enjoy it, but also because I'm I'm like honing my own craft in my mind as I'm learning from other authors. So I'm definitely like learning as I go, and I love that. I love that part of it.
Was there a scene or a moment in your book that was especially challenging to get right?
In Boy Patriot, it was super important for me to convey the relationship between the female main character Tanya and her pop, which is her nickname for her grandpa. She has this very deep yet tender love for her pop, and it's very innocent and gentle. And he, of course, reciprocates in the same way. And I wanted to make sure that I conveyed that in my writing and got that through to the reader. I have this thing written on my wall back here that says, no tears in the reader, no tears. Sorry, it says no tears in the writer, no tears in the reader, no surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader. And Robert Frost said that. And I found that after I had written this book, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's why I was laughing and crying while I was writing, and it just really stuck with me. So yeah, so I feel like that was the scene, that was the like magic that I wanted to get right in that book. And I feel like I did a pretty good job with it. So yeah.
What is the most rewarding part of the book writing process for you?
Well, I am a classic overthinker. And so having said that, I think probably most writers are, right? So writing gives me a space to do that. And so it's kind of like therapy. I can like overthink away. And then when I'm done writing for the day, I don't really find myself overthinking too much. But the other part that is probably the most obvious one is when a former student, I was a teacher, a former student or a child comes up to me and says, oh my gosh, Thomasina, your book made me laugh or cry, or I loved this character or whatever. So that is, of course, like the number one thing. But the overthinking part, just like on a personal level, for just me, that I would say that would be what it is.
Do you know your story's plot as you start your book, or does it develop as you write?
I think that I would find it very difficult to write without knowing at least like the basic plot, like the problem solution stakes. That's definitely what drives story for me as a writer. But yeah, I definitely know the basic parts of the plot. And if I've been asked before if I'm a plotter or a pantser, and I would say I'm a kind of a blend of both because of that. But once I know that, I kind of pants along. So yeah, I would say I do. Yeah.
And for the last question, tell us about your pen name. How did you come up with Thomasina Tissue?
So Thomasina Tissue was born out of a love for my father. So my dad died in 2012, and I published my first middle grade piece in 2024. So that was like 12 years later. So he never got to see my published work. And I say all that because my father was an incredible storyteller, incredible. And I feel like I got a lot of my storytelling, from him. And also because my maiden name is Tissue. So my father's last name is Tissue, or was Tissue, and his first name was Thomas. And so I just added the INA onto Thomas and made it Thomasina Tissue because I'm a girl. And interesting, just like an interesting little thing about that. So when I became published, the publisher and I were talking, and she said to me, she said, I don't know any Thomasina Tissues. Like if your name was like Mike Smith or, Mary Jones or something like that, like there's probably 4,000 of those if you Googled like an author with that name. But when you Google Thomasina Tissue, I'm pretty sure that I'm the only one that comes up. So she said, that's fantastic. And I didn't even think about that. So, but it just kind of worked out that way. So I'm glad it did. So thanks, Dad.
Very unique. Very unique. Very good. Okay. So would you mind giving our audience a sample of your work?
Oh, yes. So this is, I'm going to read a little piece out of Boy Patriot. And just for some context, Tanya is the main character, and she is at the Strong's barn where she rides after school. And it's not her horse, it's Mrs. Strong's horse. And she's cleaning up after having ridden. And the horse, named Sham, he keeps looking up into the hayloft, and she can't understand why. So she goes up to investigate. So here we go. He was doing it again, looking up as best he could toward the hayloft. Why did he keep doing that? It couldn't be a barn cat. Mrs. Strong didn't have any. Now he was standing stock still, eyes big. The sunlight was shining down from a window way up in the loft. I walked into the sunlight and towards Sham. He jumped and it startled me. Once I caught my breath, I decided once and for all to go up there and see what the fuss was all about. I think I was expecting something to pop out and scare the stuffing out of me, maybe a deranged vampire or a felon on the run, but I decided that was probably a little too dramatic. I slowly made my way up the ladder and that was nailed to the wall. I hated hayloft ladders. Why couldn't the carpenter just build a staircase? When I got up into the loft, I walked around the bales of hay and over toward the sunlight. I didn't see anything strange or out of place. It was decidedly peaceful. Sitting on a bale to adjust my bootlace, I bent down, and when I looked up, I froze. Across from me, on another bale of hay, was a boy. My breath caught in my throat. I had never seen this boy before in my life. He was looking right at me. We locked eyes. I was definitely surprised to see him there, and judging by the look on his face, I think he was just as surprised to see me. We sat what felt like a long time. He was different. He didn't look like a real boy, an alive boy. He looked like a ghost. It was Sham's hooves stirring in the aisle down below that caused me to remember to breathe. I turned my head slowly and said as calmly as I could, "I'm coming, buddy." When I looked back, the boy was gone.
Thank you, Thomasina Tissue. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Before we go, please remind the audience how they can purchase a copy of your book for themselves.
Sure. So you can get a book at thomasinatissue.com. You can also find it on Amazon. You can put in like Boy Patriot by Thomasina Tissue or The Water's Edge by Thomasina Tissue, and it'll come up. And also you can find it at longislandauthors.com.
Again, this was another magnificent Long Island author conversation with Long Island author Thomasina Tissue. If you are an author looking for a supportive and collaborative networking group that will put your work on a stage and in front of the eyes of readers, or are an inspiring author wanting to know the basics on how to get started, Long Island Authors is where you belong. You can contact me personally at 631-863-9464 or visit our website at longislandauthors.com. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.